It's gone! It's gone! It's all gone! Oh wait, I wanted it to be all gone. Huh. Well, Happy New Year everyone. Hope everyone had a safe and happy holiday. Christmas and New Year's have come and gone, and I hope it was a merry, happy time. Hopefully you guys got some good gifts, or at least bought yourself some good stuff. I know I did. A bunch of stuff that I had gotten off of HO yard sale and a couple other places. I got myself a cutting mat, one of those self-healing cutting mats for my workbench. With all the work I've been doing, I've been cutting into the surface of my workbench, and it's getting just all marred up. So I invested in one of those, and got some other great news, which is not train related, but bike related. It turns out my team and one of our main sponsors is going crazy this year, and I'm going to benefit by getting a really nice bike at a really discounted rate. Unfortunately, there's two things that are going to come of that. One, well, the bikes are on order. They won't be here until February, March. The bad news is that guarantees that winter will last sometime into July here in Wisconsin. So any of you Midwesterners living in southeast Wisconsin, I apologize. Winter's never going to end, because I'm going to have a new bike to ride, and I'm not going to be able to get out and do it. So anyway, that aside. So last video I showed you how I went about recovering some of the switches, and the follow-up to that, and I'm going to have to look the name up, but I got a tip after I posted that video, and it was actually, I saw the tip came from the Woodland Scenics website, their frequently asked questions, and they suggested, and as did the user on my video, suggested soaking the ballast with a water dishwashing liquid mix, and sure enough, that worked wonders. I salvaged almost all of my track. I took a wire brush on some of it to get all the ballast off, but all the switches I've saved, and it looks like I was able to save most of the flex track. So really pleased about that, because that'll come in handy, reduce the cost of the project. So part two of this, if you want to call it a second part, is the design aspect of what I plan to do. And I'll flip over in a second and show you the teardown. I was going to record the whole thing, but really it was just more of the same thing. It was just me taking stuff out, vacuuming up ballast, taking the wood off, and just kind of going through that process. I didn't think it was really anything all that interesting to show. But I also want to give you show you a tool that I've been using on the computer. It's from Third Planet. It's I bought the package a long time ago, and I've been using it. One of my previous jobs, and I still do some CAD work, so when I saw that there was a CAD package available many years back, I bought it and started using that to design my layouts. And even if the plans deviate, it gives you a good idea of what you can do with the space you have available, and how realistic. Oh, I want a 20 track yard in this area, and then you start modeling it in the CAD package, and go, oh, that's never going to work. Or it gives you a good idea of how broad can I make these curves in here, or how sharp can I make them. So hopefully I'll be able to capture some footage of that and tack it onto this, just to give you an idea of what I'm thinking, and we're going to go from there. So I'll just show you, you can kind of see in the background here, I switch locations. Normally I'm over by my workbench, which is back there. Today I'm over by the area of the layout that I'm ripped up, and we'll be redoing. So here are the remnants of it. This is the underside. This was the benchwork that I had built for the original 4x8 layout that I had. I've removed all the plywood. This piece here actually was tacked on the end of the layout there, and then there's another similar excuse me, structure that I had built, which went on the back side of this, that extended the layout out a little bit. In one of my previous videos I mentioned a cookie cutter technique for building benchwork. And for those not familiar, I had a question as to what cookie cutter benchwork is. And if you're familiar with sugar cookies, you know that they come in multiple different shapes generally, the circles, squares, or if you're like my wife, you make candy canes and tennis rackets and basketballs, whatever they are. But basically, you press the shape into the dough, pop it out, and there's your cookie. Well, cookie cutter bench work is similar in that you've got a large flat surface, but you pretty much cut out such that there's only wood or a road bed where the track is going to go. Now, generally this involves a sheet of plywood. Some guys use splines of plywoods that they cut and then they laminate together to get real nice curves and everything. What my favorite product to work with, because it's so manageable, is the 1-inch pink extruded styrofoam like I showed. So what I plan to do is I'm going to use this benchwork again, and I'm going to lay the sheets of styrofoam over the top, and then in the areas that I need to, I will cut out. I'm going to work with that same technique, figure out where I want the track to be, and then I will cut out the areas that there aren't track, and that'll allow me to drop that track or that scenery below. And that'll become critical when I do the river scene with the bridges, because then what I can do is I can cut out that section for the river, drop the scenery down, that'll become the riverbed, and I can then put in the bridge over the top of that scene. This will all become more apparent as hopefully this all fleshes out a little bit. It's a good technique, but it really allows you to make the scenery go below and above your track work, and it kind of helps put your track up on a berm, which you'll oftentimes see track. The real right-of-way is oftentimes elevated for drainage and things like that, and the track work being level with the surrounding terrain is not as common, at least not out on your main lines and stuff like that. So for now, that's really kind of it. I tore this all out. I'm going to start working on the bench work and going from there. But for now, I think we can flip over to, hopefully I can record some of my plans for what's going to go on here on the computer, and we'll go from there. Okay, so this is the application I was talking about. It's Third Planet, and again, I bought this several years ago when I started planning one of my early layouts, and I wanted to get an idea of what I could fit into the workspace I had available. It's pretty intuitive. Now I do have a CAD background, so I have worked with CAD programs, but by no means do you need a CAD background to work with this tool. If you've worked with any type of Photoshop tool, Corel Draw, Google Sketch, anything like that, it's simple enough to pick up. So you can see I've got multiple different layouts that I've created throughout the years, but the current layout with Bridge is what I'm working on now. And so you can see this is the layout as it stands. So this is this isn't exact. I use it kind of as a rough idea for what I can fit in an area. So you can see that this doesn't match exactly what's in, but this is the area that I just completed recently, the grain elevator, and some of the other areas here. So this is my workbench that you can see, and this is an area I haven't really shown much on videos, but kind of in through there. And so then this is the previous layout. This is the previous design. Again, you'll notice that this wasn't exact to what it was, but a rough estimation. And this is just kind of what I'm thinking about here. So you got the different elements, and if you click on each element over in this side of the window, you'll get the details on it. So for instance, this is a 27 and 7/32 inch radius curve. Now obviously if I was to come in and make these, I would not make it 27 and 7/32. I'd round up or down here. But it gives you an idea of how broad a curve you could fit into this area. These structures here I'm just using as backdrops. They're obstructions, just to kind of create the vignette or the scene. So this is where I'm thinking about putting the bridge scene, and then the backdrop, so that way it'll be a shallow area
And then this is what I'm thinking about for on the opposite side of it, just some switching and stuff like that. And I had originally thought about putting some switching in this area, but I think I decided I'm just going to create a just kind of an open area for running trains. Reduce the amount of track. Maybe put some buildings in here. I've got some city scene buildings that I've never used, and kind of put that in there, and then transition into the river scene here. And then so this will be the main line, and then coming off of this lead, which now currently there's a switch here that had come around. This is the kind of futzes with it. This is the yard lead and a small yard. So this is going to be the temporary or movable section of the layout, and this will come later down the road. This is what's nice about this design, is I can build this at any point. It's not critical to getting trains up and running again. I can still switch this industry here via this crossover pair of turnouts here. But again, it gives you a basic idea of what you can do in the area. This is all mapped in, so this is the notch out that it's in my basement wall here, and so I modeled that accordingly. And this is 60 inches across and 128 inches long. And then this is 5 feet by I think 20 inches here. You can set up your grid work and everything accordingly. So just a quick look at the tools here. If I click on that, I can delete it, and then you've got the tools here to add flex tracks. You can add flex track curves with easements or without, and a lot of times I just do without while I'm modeling. And over on the right side, you can see that as I adjust this, you can see the radius is changing. So you get an idea of how broad you can make the curves. So now that's a 30-inch radius curve, and that one's 31, so on and so forth. Now, obviously, you want to work with easements, but once you put an easement in, it creates a small section of track which is partially straight and then bends into the curve itself, which is nice, but it makes it difficult to come back later and adjust. You end up deleting a lot of segments of track. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll put in the curve to get it in there, and then I'll come back and put easements in later. And sometimes I don't even do that. Again, this is more of a reference tool. It's not an exact plan. And the great thing is you can print this out one-to-one, and you can tell it when you do a print that you're printing on a 4x8 sheet of paper, and it'll break it up into multiple 4x8 sheets of paper, so you could then tape them together. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll print out just a small part of it to get like the curves, and then I'll cut them out, tape them together, and then that gives me a template for the curves, things like that. A lot of times it's more freehand, being flex track, and I don't need to do that, but you have that option. So, and here you can see the two bridges. So I can't do a 3-span like I wanted to. I'll have to work with 2 spans and kind of modelers license it a little bit. So that's Third Planet. It's a very basic overview. I'd go into more detail, but there's a lot of good tutorials on YouTube on how to use it. And I just wanted to show more of what I was planning than anything. So.
Okay, so I know what you're thinking. Well, first of all, you really jumped ahead and skipped a lot. Second, you didn't change much, and this sure doesn't look like any sugar cookie I ever ate. And you're right, it doesn't at the moment. However, this is the basic overall just base. And so what I did, and I'll kind of take the mask off here, if you will. So on this end over here, you can see I went ahead and put in shelf brackets that extend out from the wall, and the shelf bracket's 16 inches, and then the piece of lumber right in there, that is a 1x4, and that's 19.5 inches long, and that mates up to the base of the main layout here. And then there's 3 of them. There's one there, another one underneath there, and then one that extends out over here. And then that'll give support for this part of the layout here. And then for the rest of the layout, I reused the original base that I had. Just removed the plywood. And so you can... Okay, so here we are back at the benchwork, and this is the area that I plan to put the bridge scene and the river scene. So you can see what I've done here is there's the main benchwork in the back here, and I attached a 1x4 on either side, and there's another piece over here behind this piece of extruded styrofoam, and then I connected it just via a piece of 1x4 as well, and this spans the entire this is 44 inches from one side to the other, and the bridges themselves will be about 20 inches, and then that'll give me a little bit of room to taper down and actually start the bridges, and then actually have the riverbed and stuff like that. Now, this isn't a whole lot of support, and you might be wondering why I did this, but what I plan to do is once I've got the track in, I'll cut this out, this whole section, drop this down, so then this pink extruded styrofoam will rest on here, and that'll become the base. And these two combined will be strong enough to support, you know, the track work and anything I do there. And if push comes to shove, if I need to add support, I can always rig up a brace, that bracket that comes and you know, can reinforce this a little bit. So that's that, and that'll become somewhat of the cookie cutter bench work. So you can see some of these risers or the supports weren't level, so what I did was I just used some extruded styrofoam here and leveled them off, so then I can glue that down and it'll all be level. So the other thing I went ahead and did was I needed to recreate my lift-out bridge. Unfortunately, that's just a feature that's not going to go away on this layout, at least not for a while. So I did some research on the internet, just did a search on lift-out bridges and layouts, and a couple of different ideas, and I mulled over what I was going to do and different things. And I came upon one gentleman who actually I thought had a pretty good idea, and what he did is he just created a gap, and then he uses this as a base to support the top of the bridge, and this for centering it and aligning it. Okay, so this is the lift out bridge section, and basically what I did was I took the idea I saw and took 1x4s, created a 3/4 inch gap. It's the thickness of a 1x4, and I did the same thing over on this side. So as you can see, this is still the existing layout, and this track is going to come out, and it's going to be a double track coming out to here in the future. But then there's an alignment joint here, and the great thing is I'm going to still be able to reuse my limit switch from last time. I'll just be able to mount that in there and won't have to rewire that. And here's the bridge itself. So basically it's just a piece of particle board. I know, not ideal, but I had it left over from the old layout and I wanted to reuse it. And so basically it goes 10 inches to 5 inches, or vice versa, depending on the way you look at it. And it's just, this will allow me to start a curve transition, straight piece that'll come across to the 4x8 of the layout, and then another piece that curves off. And then on the bottom side of it, I've just mounted a 1x4. Now it serves two purposes. It gives the bridge strength by basically creating a T-beam of sorts, if that's even a term. But it also is the alignment. So you can see, all I have to do is line up the two slots,
And she drops into place. This is still a little bit of a rough go. I do want to put on some sidewalls on it, guardrails I guess would be the proper term. And eventually, you know, obviously there'll be track and everything, but I'll probably paint this just to keep it, you know, looking nice. Lay the track, put the guardrails on there, and that'll be that. And again, I can install my limit switch on one of these sides, and but it's nice and stable. And the great thing is, it's nice and level. I mean, I'm level that way and good and level this way. So I've got a little bit of a joint to deal with here. I've got to determine how I'm going to handle that. But overall, I'm really pleased with it. I think it's actually an improvement over the previous lift-out bridge that I had. So, and it right now, like I said, I'm probably going to sand down these joints, but you can see it's very stable, you know, left and right. So the track will stay in good alignment, which is again better than the previous one I had. And it lifts out, you know, relatively easily as well. Well, I think that's it for this one. Kind of just basics of what I've been working on. And now that the holidays are over and most of the Christmas and New Year's and stuff like that is behind us, hopefully I'll have a little bit more time before, of course, the racing season starts again in April. But should give me plenty of time, hopefully, to continue working on this new part of the layout. I'm actually really excited about it. I know it doesn't look like much yet. I know that I really didn't fully explain what cookie cutter benchwork is, but I'm hoping by the time we're done, I'll have a better video to present what cookie cutter benchwork is. So some of the other projects I've been working on, and if you recall, I had a tank car that I bought that was severely damaged when it arrived, and so what I went ahead and did was I just cut some lumber and braced up underneath it, and I got this 85-foot flat car. And so I went ahead and right now it's removable, but that's because I want to weather the flat car first. I want to give the deck a good weathering, the trucks and everything. And then I also mounted the trucks to some wood as well, and some timber, if you will. And the funny thing is that I'm a subscriber or a member of the website railpictures.net, and I know there's a lot of people that love it, a lot of people that hate it. I won't go into the diatribe about submitting pictures to the site, but anyway, it can be it's a frustrating site, but they do have some of the most amazing pictures out there. In terms of just, I use them as desktop backgrounds all the time on my phone, on my computer. Just some amazing pictures. A great way to rail fan when you can't get out. But anyway, recently somebody had a picture of a tank car on a flat car, and it happened to be an 85-foot flat car. And I thought, perfect. So I bookmarked it and I saved it, and so now I'm using that as reference for this particular car. So looking forward to getting this one finished. But so that's one of the other projects I got going. I also have a few other of my Christmas presents to work on, and I don't know if you can see it, but I got a nice cutting mat on the workbench now, so that's I really enjoy having that. So next episode, or next video, I guess, hopefully I'll go a little bit further into laying out my track plan. I got to evaluate what switches I have, how many switches I'm going to have to make, or turnout switches, whatever you want to call them. I've got to evaluate what I've got, what I want in the plan, and go from there. So I hope everyone had a safe and happy New Year, and everyone's surviving. If you're up in the, well, pretty much anywhere in the States right now is freezing cold, but I understand that the folks down in Australia are having a heat wave. I happened to see a picture the other day, and it said, meanwhile in Australia, and it had 3 candle tapers and a candelabra, and it was so hot that they actually melted and looked like limp noodles. They were just kind of bent over. I thought that was kind of funny. It's currently minus 14 out, and our minus wind chill of like 35 or something like that. So the complete opposite is happening to our candles. They're becoming brittle and breaking from being so cold. But well, take what we get. You know, it's all part of it. So thanks again. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you next time.